But by 1968, the city has created a plan in response to the riots called the Cultural Crescent Master Plan to redevelop Watts. And the idea is that it would be an economic, educational, and entertainment stimulus for the area. But just to give you an idea, that the first implementation of the plan was about 10 years ago. So it's totally sort of I don't want to badmouth the city, but it's just not working very well.
I won't tell.
Thank you, Olga. Yeah. So through the 70s and the 90s, when legitimate economies pull out of a place, illegitimate economies move in. So the rise of drugs and gang violence, and then this migration out of Los Angeles, which I'm a part of. My family left LA in 1984, had started to happen. So by 1994, the CRA has revisited this Cultural Crescent Master Plan, and in 1996 is the founding of the Watts House Project in response to the ineffectiveness of that plan. This is where my story comes in. The Watts House Project is founded by artist Rick Lowe. Some of you may know him. He's the founder of Project Row Houses. I was an art student at the time at Art Center College of Design. I was his apprentice. I was his underling. He was a tremendous influence on me because I recognized that there was a meeting place between my aesthetic concerns as a practitioner of having a studio practice and that of the political, the social, and that of being a citizen. And it merged these two things together in this really amazing way. And since 1996, I've never been able to let it go. So by 1999, Project Row Houses expanded from being a small-scale organization to a relatively large one, and Rick couldn't maintain both projects, so I sort of transitioned into the leadership position around that time, 1999 to 2000. The beautification phase. Let me show you some of the work that we did in the past. So in 1999, our first project was working with Felix and Christina Madrigal. And Felix is really kind of like the patriarch of the neighborhood. For a project like this to work, you really have to have someone there to be your advocate, but someone who's sort of deeply rooted in and who people trust. And Felix is really the connective tissue of the whole entire block. Our project was a simple response to a problem, which was that his driveway, which was unpaved at the time, that he would get ticketed when he would park there, but then he would also get, because you can't park on an unpaved surface, but he would also get ticketed for parking in the street because it's a substandard street, it's too narrow, and that happened for decades. So we made some sketches together. You can kind of see it in here. There's three pyramidal forms, which are reminiscent of the towers, and there's kind of a sun shape at the top, which you'll be able to see a little bit later. And using local resources, using the labor which already exists in South LA, because that's where the cheap labor for construction lives. And 107th Street is really a microcosm of that, because just on the block itself, we have a cabinet builder, we have a roofer, we have a blacksmith, we have professional contractors, roofers. We have a guy who works with Snap-on tools. I mean, all the labor that we need to be able to make the work happen is actually already there. This is a project we did in 2000 where we repainted this house and this garage working with John Locke High School. They designed the motifs, they painted it, they learned the craft of mural painting. This is Genardo, who I was just mentioning a little bit earlier, who's the blacksmith. Great story here. When we approached Genardo to do the project, he had already had this idea for years about creating a fence that had this radial burst, kind of a sun shape. So it was easy. I bought the materials, I gave it to him, and 3 days later I came back and half the fence was built. And I was like, my God, this is great. I didn't know you knew how to weld. He goes, I don't, but he taught himself how to do it. And 7 years later, Genardo is now a certified welder. He's our #1 fabricator, and he has his metal shop is in his backyard. Vision and timeline. So in September, a few weeks ago, we began our first remodel. It's 2008. Do you guys like my graphics? I know it's very non-art grant-making. People give me a lot of flack about this, but I have to maintain my aesthetic, So like I said, we want to do 4 houses per year. our cafe project, we hope to be able to kick that off sometime next year. And then the street maintenance project is also a very important one. Like I said, it's a substandard size. Also, the other problem with the street is that there's no storm drains. If it rains, the street totally floods. If you wash your car, the street floods. It's been that way for decades. We hope to be able to do some partnerships, like with my friend over there, Olga Garay. I've publicly put her on the spot to be able to get some money to be able and build some partnerships.
No
to be able
soliciting.
To convince that was uncalled for. We'll talk about it at the bar. The organic garden as well. The artist residency program, our social services, and then we hope by 2013 to be able to have all the homes as well as the street done, and then continuing to expand our programming into 2018. Collaboration is how we do it. Artists, residents, architects, students, schools, museums, community leaders, you. The people are the resources, and without the people, there really is nothing to fund. One thing that Rick said to me, and I'm afraid I might be running over time, but one of the things that Rick said to me was, Edgar, if you can't get the funding to do this project, then maybe there should be no project. And I really took that to heart. It's a very profound thing to say, because then I thought, well, if the community doesn't want it, then why should I build it? So as I've moved forward in thinking about resources and funders, that the priority is the people themselves. And then hopefully, once you create something which is really good, then the money will come. But the idea is to try to get as many people involved first in the idea, and then look for the money after. So right now, our first supporters is the UCLA Hammer Museum. We're renovating our first house. I'm a part of the residency program. For Your Art is one of our on our advisory board. They're a very progressive model. I don't know if you guys know them or not. Doing PR and marketing, not only for arts organizations, but for art projects too. LAX Art, we're part of the Public Arts Initiative. Like I didn't know if I mentioned, but we're in formation as a nonprofit at this point. And trying to create some long-term relationships with USC and the Public Arts Studies Department, as well as the School of Public Policy, and with the School of Architecture, which we work with already. And one of our funders is Creative Capital, and local art collectors that have been supporting us through fundraising of editions that I've made.